And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the African American Athlete. I'm Rickey Hampton, along with my friend and frat brother, Michael Roberson, coming to you on a Wednesday. I hope everybody had a great hump day. Uh, Man, it's been a minute since we've been on, Mike. It's good to see you, brother. And we're going to get caught up on some things that went down while we were gone. And we're also going to be joined later in the hour by our good friend Matt Calvin, the former Denver Nuggets, Miami Floridian star, ABA legend, one of the greatest players of that league. Also played in the NBA. But how you doing, brother?
Well, of course, we'll probably be showing a video where I actually interviewed the guy that's in question out here now. That would be Mr. Trey Lance, who the Niners went through a lot to trade up for him and all that. And now it looks like they're trying to save face because he's been relegated to third string, and which he actually played in the game. So for you guys out there saying, what is he talking about? Well, the Niners played Denver over the weekend. I happened to cover that game. So I made a beeline down to the Broncos area where they had a press conference, and Russ came out, and I asked Russ, I even asked Sean Payton, but he kind of said, I got to worry about our team. But
I got your conversation with Russ, which is really good.
Right.
Go ahead.
So I'm just going to kind of like preview it. So I just pretty much asked him about, does he have anything, to say about the situation going on with Trey, where he is on the sideline, was the starter this time last year, but now he's on the sideline and relegated to third string. And now they're the coach was on a couple radio shows. Matter of fact, I think he was getting interviewed by Tom Tolbert of basketball fame. He's on the air out here. And he was asking him about, is there a future for Trey here? And he said that, he said all the good points about he likes him and he hopes that he stays here, but we want to make sure he's in the best position for him. And he talked about how Purdy pretty much won the job because of those, 5 or 6 games last year. So you got that going on. So I talked to Russ about that and about himself because, of course, he's under the microscope too. And then, of course, all the other drama with basketball-wise. Now they're trying to, another connection to me out here is you got some of these buffoons out here saying Steph Curry's better than Magic. Okay. And one of them is one of our colleagues, Stephen A. Smith. So we get into all that. But, yeah, a lot of this stuff is happening out here in the Bay Area. And, of course, the big story is what's going on with Trey Lance.
Yeah, let me let's run that piece from this is
feel and the adversity
Russell
he's
Wilson.
going through. As a former young black quarterback yourself, what do you see when you see Trey Lance on the other side of the field and the adversity he's going through? And would you have any kind of advice for him about making it in this tough NFL?
Well, the thing about Trey, people have to understand that I believe he's 22 years old. He got drafted at 20 years old, weight in the world on his shoulders, and I think that the thing about it is he's a tremendous football player. He's got a lot of gifts and a lot of talent, and it's gonna turn for his good. And I believe Trey is a guy that's one, he's worked at his craft, just watching him and just all the things he's done, but also two, the best thing that Trey can do is ignore the noise. There's only so many people in the world that get to play this position. There's only so many people in the world that get to step in between the white lines on the National Football League field, and he's one of them. And he's a guy that's going to have a great career. You just got to keep working at it and know that there's going to be some tough days. There's going to be some great days. And knowing that, if anybody knows, I know. But just knowing that, it's one of those things that you just trust the process. You trust the process. You enjoy the journey, and you have tunnel vision. You put the blinders on. You just keep working, and there's always a breakthrough. So, I'm rooting for him. I think he's got a lot of talent, a lot of ability, a lot of years left.
Thank you very much.
I couldn't hear for some reason that didn't
Yeah,
Trey played as well as it did when I listened to it originally, but I heard enough of him to say, and I actually agree with Russell when he said one of the things he was telling us ignore the noise
right.
and be tunnel vision. Can you expound on what else he may have said?
Yeah, it was pretty much that because I had placed the question and I'm saying, look, a while back you were this young black quarterback where people doubted you and all that, even though he played really well at Wisconsin, but it was 1 year. And then of course he comes in later rounds, and then Pete Carroll just for some reason said, you know what, I think you are our starter, which a lot of coaches wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
We see Shanahan was reluctant to do it with Trey. So, yeah. And so, so I came to him in that perspective. And it was funny watching some of the Denver reporters were like, I noticed one guy was next to me just kept nodding his head when Russ was saying about, ignore the noise. And, I kind of know what this was like, and also just basically saying that, that he's a good player. He's supporting him. He said, I like him. I support him, and that he's going to be fine. And that, he just has to be patient and, make sure you just, keep your focus, keep that tunnel vision. And that was the main thing.
And this next clip, he talked about, because, he had the worst year of his career last year. And you asked him about that. Let's play this right quick.
All right.
Your career, how are you feeling mentally and physically at the beginning of this year with Sean Payton?
Yeah, I think Coach Payton's done a tremendous job of just bringing us all together and really, getting us to compete at the highest level. I think also too, for me personally, you go through a journey, and you go through, I want to play 20 plus years, so when you go through that, there's going to be some tough moments, there's going to be some highs, there's going to be some lows, a lot more highs than lows. But I think knowing that, to weather storms, knowing how to, take everything and understand that, gratitude and love for this game, it never changes, it never wavers, on your best days or your toughest days, knowing that the best days are ahead. And so I'm just grateful that I got great people around me, in terms of teammates, the coaching staff and Coach Payton and the rest of the staff has done a tremendous job of just teaching us every day. My love for the game is, never wavers. Just the passion, the love of being out in between those white lines. I played a lot of football games. I've been in a lot of moments, and every time I step in between those white lines, you feel like a kid all over again. So I'm just grateful.
Yeah, that was bad. And earlier in training camp, Peyton just ripped the coach from last year, Hackett. I mean, because Mike, I don't think Russell Wilson is as bad as he was. There's no way you go from being as good as he was to being that bad last year. You think he's going to bounce back under Sean Payton?
Absolutely. And the thing about it is he's going to make people realize, even though some will still not do it, because you got some taking shots at him like, oh, he's phony. And the only reason he won is because of the Legion of Boom. And so there's a lot of people that still won't give him credit because, they can say he's never received an MVP vote. So he must not be good, even though we know that MVP voting is subjective,
right.
Definitely like All-Star game voting. So there's going to be some people still. He could throw for 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and you still have somebody say, whatever, or they'll say that was all Sean Payton. See, that lets you know that he needed help. He needed either Pete Carroll or Sean Payton for him to be good. So,
what quarterback doesn't need help from his staff? What quarterback doesn't need help from the coaching staff?
Well, listen what they say about Brady. Oh, it was Brady. It wasn't Belichick. And I'm like, do you guys remember he was a game manager after he got away with that fumble? He was a game manager in that Super Bowl against St. Louis. It wasn't like he was putting up big stats. That defense carried him. So, but yeah, there's people that say, no, Belichick was irrelevant. Look at him now. I'm like, that's not analogous of what really happened, okay? The analogy is that he got in the game because Bledsoe almost got his chest caved in. He got in and did well, throughout the year, but then all of a sudden you get to the big play where you fumbled the big game away. That game was over. Raiders won. And then they waited about 15, 20 minutes and then pulled a rule out of their rear end, because I don't want to say anything that could be misconstrued as hate. They pulled that rule out. Nobody ever heard of that Tuck rule. So they pull that out, and then all of a sudden now he's a hero. And then they upset St. Louis, the greatest show on turf. But his stats were like pedestrian. And I think he still got the MVP. So that was the beginning of, we're overrating this guy. And it's really Belichick putting him in the right place. Because it's amazing how we give Shanahan so much credit for being a person that can put Garoppolo in a position where he doesn't even throw the ball about 5 times. But what did people say about Garoppolo? Well, all he does is win. But it was the Shanahan touch. But now you're diminishing what Belichick did because you love Brady so much. So there's going to be somebody, once again, that's going to discredit whatever Russell does. So I hope he does have a bounce back year. I mean, he's about to have another child, so he better get it going. And his wife, of course, did a video with the Noops, which is really hot right now. A lot of people are excited about it. So they were strolling and twirling on all that on the video.
Yeah, I saw that. We got the start of the season 2 weeks from tomorrow. What are you looking forward to in the? What are you going to be watching?
Well, I mean, of course, my enthusiasm towards the NFL since the whole Kaepernick fiasco has been at a very, very minimal. And a lot of it has to do because I'm really still attuned to it is because, of course, we do a sports show, but also because I'm a commissioner in several fantasy leagues. And so I have to at least be cognizant of what's going on. But I'm not as excited as I used to be. Like I said, I'm just really that, and then the whole running back stuff, and it just the whole way the NFL is doing things now. Not like they weren't it before. I guess I wasn't as aware back when I was younger, but it just kind of turns me off a little bit. But I'll be looking for, once again, to see if Russell is going to get it together, because I actually have another game. I have the Chargers will be in town Friday, so I'll be covering that. And the question is, will Trey Lance still be around? Will I be able to talk to him? Because that's what I was going to do this week. I was going to talk to Trey this week, but I had to talk to Russell last week. I said, look.
Do you think he's going to get traded? I don't think they're
No, see, this is the way I kind of see it. If they trade him, I think Shanahan and all those guys looking at the PR point of view of, well, how are you guys going to trade him? Then you guys must really acknowledge that you failed miserably on him. So I think they're worried about how that's going to look to the public, that you traded away a guy that we traded away all these draft picks or whatever to get him. And then, anybody that's not cynical, like a lot of these people out here are, that's calling him trash and everything else. Some people will say, you know what, if we really look at it, when did he really get a chance to play? Like I said, he was supposed to be a starter this time last year. He starts game 1 against the Bears. It's a monsoon up in Chicago, and somehow the Bears win. And, of course, their quarterback is under fire. And then game 2, in better weather, breaks his ankle.
Yeah,
so what chance did he really have to really do that? And then, of course, they said, whoa, he's not playing well in preseason. Think about it. They played 2 preseason games. He's got a touchdown in both of them. And was about to get the game-winning touchdown in this game. And guess what Shanahan did? He said, down the ball. He downed the ball like 2 or 3 times so the field goal kicker, Moody, can win the game. And that's how they won 21-20. Instead of saying, I got a young quarterback that needs confidence, let me let him get this touchdown. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying that it looks like it's an agenda, because not only do you not let him be the hero of the night, but then now you demote him permanently, you don't need to make that announcement until 15 minutes before the game one. But you now you do this, so now he's being humiliated, and then you put him in a position where if he has to be traded, he's disgruntled.
Okay, Purdy's in front of him, and who's the other guy in front of him?
Now I forgot his name.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, his name just went through my. I was just talking about him today, but yeah, he's he. Matter of fact, what happened in the game is Lance didn't come in till halfway through the third quarter. So that right there lets you know that there was something amiss.
And Donald.
Yeah, Darnold. Yeah, there you go. So Darnold played, from because Purdy only played the first series and they got a field goal. Then Russ played one series. They got a field goal. So now you had Darnold in, and then the Broncos backup quarterback. So we were thinking that Darnold would probably just play the rest of the first quarter, and they'll bring in Trey in so he could get some work in. But next thing we know, it's halftime. I'm like, hey, man, Trey hasn't gotten in yet. Then the third quarter started. Darnold's still in. And then finally they put in Trey. And then, of course, he throws the interception. Great play by the defensive end where he just put his arms up and intercepted it. But then he came back and got a touchdown. And then, like I said, they were going back and forth. And then they were down by 2. And he was running the ball down. He got the ball down to the red zone. And then Shanahan said, nope, you're not going to be the hero tonight. We're going to down the ball, spike it, and let him kick it. So then that's when I said that, you know what? You're not even putting him in a good position if you do that to him.
And it's a couple more things I want to get to before we're joined by, I guess, Matt Calvin. We got the U.S. Open coming up. And on the women's side, Coco Gauff is going to be coming into that thing with a lot of momentum.
Yep.
She knocked off Swiatek, the number 1 player in the world, on the way to winning, I think it was the Cincinnati Open.
Yeah.
Her third win of the year.
Right.
Quietly, she's had a great year. And she's still only 19 years old.
Right. And that's the thing about it. Remember,
she's won 5 times, man.
Well, that's the same thing with Serena and Venus. We watched them grow up. But the thing about Coco is that it's in Cincinnati, but I think it's called the Southern Western Open. It's SW. It's either whichever way. And it's usually that's the kind of order it goes for the hard courts. Of course, she would have been out here again before going to Cincinnati. And then they go up to Canada. The men, I think, go to Montreal, and the women go to Toronto, or the other way around. So they both go up to Canada and do that. Then I think it's one more. Then the U.S. Open happens. So yeah, so she's on a nice roll before the U.S. Open. And I actually sent a little tweet. I don't even know if we call it tweets anymore now. Because it's,
I guess you call it X.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I sent an X to her about, I said, hey, you look real good out there, young lady. I'm happy to see that. I said, I'm a little bit disappointed you won the Mubadala in DC instead of here, but I'm glad that you did that. Now, a lot of people like that too. And so yeah, it's great to see. And like I said, we're watching her grow up in front of our eyes. And I'm really, really glad I got a chance to see her live, So, I could look back at that. And same thing with being able to see Serena Venus. And of course, I saw Naomi when she was a youngster and when she was unknown. And then to see her years later won multiple Grand Slams. So that's the one thing about it, is that even though the whole thing out here is over, I'm really, really thankful I got to cover that for over 10 years. And there's been some good tennis players. And to see Coco now blossoming into that spot.
She's coming. She's really coming into her own.
Yeah.
And you watch her, man. She's strong. She moves well.
Mm-hmm.
She's clearly learning the game.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to keep our eye on this sister, man.
Absolutely. Now she just has to win a Grand Slam. Then she's really into that category.
Yeah, and that's what she was saying after this. She said she's going to New York to win.
Exactly.
So that's all right. Speaking of winning, I was so glad for this sister. You know, it won't take us long to
Two of
watch
those Jamaicans, the top two on the podium, Fraser Price, the world champion, and Jackson, are back. Does anybody else from the rest of the world have an answer for what the Jamaican women have done to this event at Worlds?
On the far left of your screen is Sha'Carri Richardson in her first World Final. She has to get a better start than what she got in the semi.
She's got to have a much better start, because at least then she gives herself a chance. This is a World Championship final. You're not going to run down people if you give them too much of a lead.
The two Jamaicans in the middle, Sharika Jackson, and then Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price and Julian Alfred on their outside. Blue top, black bottoms.
Set.
Women's 100 World Final. The Jamaicans get out well. It's Sharika Jackson, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, Talu. Here comes Sha'Carri Richardson. Sha'Carri's done it. Sha'Carri Richardson has won the world title. She had to come from behind in the semi, but when it counted, she has done it.
But Mike, what you love here, she doesn't believe. She doesn't believe it. Just watch it.
No, let me tell you this. Okay, go ahead.
Sha'Carri Richardson has stunned the sprinting world and is a world champion.
That's a world championship record, a personal best, but short memory, Lee. After a bad semifinal, she recovered and ran the race necessary to upset the Jamaicans and wrest the world title back from Jamaica. It's back in the United States' hands for the first time since 2017.
That was the race of Sha'Carri's life, and she delivered. The United States sweep the 100-meter finals. Noah Lyles in the men's, Sha'Carri in the women's.
That was something. From the outside lane, she had to overcome 40 years of history. There's never been a man or a woman to make a final on time and then win the world title in the 100 meters. That's what Sha'Carri Richardson just.
I love that joy from her, man. It took her a minute to realize, see, I just did this.
Yeah.
I just did this. And then she just took off.
Well, one other thing we need to add to that is, of course, when they do the on-track interview, of course, that's our frat brother, Lewis Johnson. Yeah, so, of course, being a former runner, I was watching that, and I was looking at Shelly-Ann Fraser. I was like, dang, what's going on with her? And then Jackson was in front of her, so the two Jamaican women. And then all of a sudden I said, okay, where's Sha'Carri? And then she's in lane 9, because it depends on how they do the track. That's lane 9 or lane 1.
She barely made it to the finals. Exactly.
And that's what they were saying, that nobody's ever won as a qualifier. And I know what that's like, because that's how I made it to state. Our sectional was so fast that even if you didn't get the 2 top spots, we had probably the 4 fastest times in the state. So I made it as an at-large. So I know what that's like. You have to sit and wait. But I was just shocked that she just zipped up there in that bad lane and won it. And then, of course, we got Noah Lyles for the men, doing his thing, and he's probably going to win the 200. So he's the big sensation now for the men's side. So only thing I would say about Sha'Carri is that keep this momentum, and it's going to be even more important to do this in Paris, because world championships are great, but the Olympic gold medal is where your butter is bread, or your bread is buttered. And that's the one that people are going to remember. And of course, I got to acknowledge our hurdler who won 3 straight championships too, of course, that's my favorite event, the 110s, 110 high hurdle. So America's going to look pretty good in Paris unless a catastrophe happens.
Hey, let's keep it moving because we got our great friend and one of the greatest players to ever pick up a basketball, the legendary Matt Calvin. Matt, welcome to the African American Athlete. Brother, it is always good to have you on to talk a little hoops, and we talk in life in general when we have you on, Matt. But Matt, I really want to get you on to talk about a couple of things. You know, we had the USA basketball. Mike and I were just talking about preparing for the Olympics and all that with track and field, but USA basketball, you know, back in the day, we just go over there. You could send 2 or 3 teams and they go over there and win the match. But that's a totally different story now. USA rallied from 16 points down, guys, to beat Germany the other night. Now, that was the B team, but nonetheless, you better show up and play when you're playing these international teams now.
Right.
Your thoughts, Matt?
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be on your show. It was great to see you guys again. Basketball season is not quite here yet, but a lot of off-season activities, whether you want to talk about the James Harden soap opera in Philadelphia to John Morant, some other things that are going on. But I'm happy to see you guys again. Michael, I did not know you ran track, brother. I thought you were a basketball player all along, you know. So, you know, but anyway, I'm happy to know that, and I'm sure you were just a tremendous athlete when you were young. But thanks so much, Ricky and Mike, for having me. It's great to see you guys again, and great to chop it up a little bit more about what's been going on in the off season. And I also want to just say, guys, last week I completed my 46th annual Matt Calvin Youth Empowerment Fundamental Basketball Camp.
Nice.
Very excited. We had 47 kids. It's a free camp. And I've shared with you in the past that, you know, we've had James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard came a couple years before his father passed away, and then DeMar DeRozan, his dad brought him, and then Tyshawn Prince, Tyson Chandler, all those kids from Compton, Watts, and Long Beach. Yeah, well, from Compton, yeah, all of them. Yeah. And James Harden was probably my first one, guys. I was adding up the numbers and doing a little USC arithmetic, and between all of those players, they have collected a little over close to $2 billion in salaries during that whole period of time. Yeah, and I've also had something like 15 CIA agents and God knows how many police officers that came through my camp when they were kids and now have gone on to be successful, and so many more that young kids that went through the Matt Calvin School of Discipline, I would say, because we don't talk about basketball, man. We really discipline the kids. We talk about life skills and personal relationships. So I just wanted to throw that in because I'm very proud of that. My daughter, Christy, helps me a tremendous amount in making this happen. Close to 16,000 kids.
I got that video, and I'm going to try to get that up before we get out of here.
One of the couple of things that I preach that, you know, I say, I shall, I can, I will, I must get an education. And that's our mantra. And the other thing that I preach to the kids, no kid eats alone at school. So with all the mental issues that some of our kids have, I tell these young kids, if you see someone at school eating by themselves, go over and ask, can I sit down with you? Because that kid is lonely or nobody wants to. You don't never know what's going on. So no kid eats alone. And that's my mantra.
All right. Okay. Well, before I get into this question for you, I was also a high jumper, played baseball, played football, and of course I love basketball the most, but I digress. So my question, first of all, would be, you know, of course, now there's a narrative going around where I don't know who started it, that Stephen A. Smith and a couple others are saying that the basically blasphemy that Steph is a better point guard than Magic Johnson.
Well,
a point guard, what would you say?
Well, I think that's ludicrous. I think that whoever said that, they really have no idea
Exactly.
of point guard position. In today's world, NBA, the position, there are no positions. You know, Steph is you want to call him a one, which we used to call it a point guard in those days.
Right.
A two is a shooting guard. In today NBA, it's there's no position. You know, you got guys that are threes that are playing the five position. Look at Joker. What do you call him? A center? You know, he plays all kind of positions. So Magic Johnson, in my opinion, probably go along with, put him in the same category of Bob Cousy, Oscar Robertson, Magic, John Stockton, probably the four greatest point guards in the history of the NBA. And probably would throw Nate Archibald in there, but Nate was more of a scorer. Those guys thought pass and run the team first more than anything. Steph Curry will go down as one of the top 5 basketball players, I think, in my opinion, in the history of basketball. He ended up probably number in the top 5 or 7 all-time scorers, because I think he's got a good 5 more years left to play at a high level if he stays healthy. But Magic Johnson by far is the number 1 point guard of all times. There's no comparison. Right. And Stephen A doesn't always know what he's talking about. Yeah, I mean, did he play ball? I mean, I don't even know the guy's background.
Here's the story, and of course he does his name dropping. So he's on the show, and then he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, Michael Jordan texted me about 5 a.m. and he said that you read this on the air that there's no way." Well, he said he's close, but he said he's not better than Magic Johnson. And then for him, he played at some design school. He supposedly was a pretty good player in New York. And then he ended up down in Winston-Salem, same place as Earl of Pearl, and played with Big House Games, but supposedly broke his kneecap or something like that. So he didn't really have a career. And then he said that's when he started doing his writing. And one of the first articles he wrote, or while he was a writer, he said that Big House Games need to retire.
Well,
he was already controversial then.
Yeah, well, I think that's how he gets paid. I think that's how he gets paid to really be negative. And my problem I have, and I never listened to him, but when I hear about him, is that he wants to be known as a great sports writer, commentator, or sports person. But I don't think you knock other athletes to get to that level, in my opinion. So I really have no respect for his professional position that he holds. And he and the other guy, Mad Dog, I think that's what they call him.
Yeah.
Those guys make a lot of money being negative on the show, and I just think that's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean that's what they get paid to do, say outrageous things and try to start controversies. But Mac, I do want to get your thoughts on USA basketball and our chances in Paris with our teams that we have preparing to go over there. One thing I saw. The only game I got to watch was the Germany game, and the team we had there that day was not very big, and I could see that as a weakness going down the road because USA basketball, our top centers, the Joker is international, Embiid is international, Giannis is not really a center, but just your thoughts.
Well, thank you for letting me chime in on that. First of all, unfortunately, you're going to have 3 or 4 of the current players on those rosters that will not make the team.
Right.
And so you're going to bring, if LeBron decides to play again, he'll play. I think Steph Curry, no question, will play because of his relationship with Steve Kerr. And then you throw in a couple other players, perhaps Jamal Green, Green. He's got experience. Experience is a key when you're playing international. You have to understand FIBA rules. a lot of adjustments. And these players, this is their first time. The Anthony Edwards, some of the other players, this is their first time. They've only been together for about 5-6 weeks. So it's going to take time. But what I like about this team is that they really have a great camaraderie together. They love playing, and they bought into playing for the United States, which I love. Before, you had to drag certain superstars to go over there and play or come together. But it seems like they've got a great group of young players. You got players that are really young, and that's going to be around for the next two Olympics, in my opinion. They're 23, 24. And so they're going to be around till they're 31, 32, 33 years of age, and with a lot of experience. So I'm happy to see that. But as they'll go through these particular rounds undefeated, we're gaining a lot of experience. Germany is a well-coached, well-developed team. They got the Wagner brothers, and then also they have
Schroeder.
Schroeder, who is probably a 7th or 8th man on an NBA team. He's no longer probably a starter, and so. But he's been around. He's playing international ball ever since he was 15, 16 years of age. So that makes a big difference. And but I think there's no question. At the end of the day, France, Spain, Argentina, those teams will be right in the mix of things at the end of the day.
But if we send our best guys, nobody's going to beat us. Right?
Oh, it's a lock. It's a lock. I mean, there's no question about it. And I think LeBron will probably this will be his last hurrah. Add Steph Curry to that mix, and perhaps a couple other great young players. To add that to the mix. And they're small, but just well talented and a great coaching staff.
Well, you know what? And if you really think about it, what do we have? 3 losses altogether? Because of course, 72, we know what happened there. Remember, we had Mike Bantam on for that one, Ricky, and he's still mad about what happened in 72.
Yeah, they never accepted those games.
But then you fast forward to 88, and you know how we talk about sending our best players. So what I was upset about is that, that of course it's John Thompson, first black coach to do the Olympics. So I really was rooting for them. But I still don't understand why Sean Elliott wasn't on that team. He's the player of the year out of Arizona. B.J. Armstrong wasn't on that team, but he had his own Charles Smith, the point guard. And, of course, Bobby Knight did the same thing with Steve Alford in 84. So right. I see maybe you want one of your players. But, you had Stacey Augmon and you had Mitch Richmond. So not really the shooters like I said with B.J. Even Tim Hardaway was floating around. So it just seemed like that was a defensive-oriented team. And the only real prolific scorer on that team was Hersey Hawkins. And a lot of people don't realize this. That USA team was undefeated. Yugoslavia and the Soviet Union both had a loss. So what happened, Hersey Hawkins got hurt in a blowout win against China. So when they played the Soviet Union, they really lost that on three-point shooting. They outshot them from the three-point line. And that's when that came into play, having a defensive-oriented team instead of some shooters. Like Max said, when you play international ball, it's a different type of game. You're not going to be doing the, beat the ball down, or we're going to play defense, or, like Nolan Richardson did 40 minutes of hell. Right. But they lost that because of that. That's the only game they lost. So all three had one loss, but they lost at the wrong time. So, of course, we overreact and we send NBA players. And that 2004 team, the first NBA team to lose, remember, that was the first Olympics after 9/11. So a lot of players bailed on Larry Brown. And Larry Brown had the 3 rookies, LeBron, Melo, and Wade, but he didn't like to play rookies. So they were pretty much on the bench. I think the only one he gave a lot of minutes to out of the rookies was Wade. And Wade had played 3 years in Marquette. Well, he played multiple years in Marquette.
Hey, Mac, you coached at the NBA level, and Larry Brown is not the first guy that didn't like rookies. Our great friend Ray Scott, when he coached, he wasn't crazy about rookies. I mean, is it because they're rookies? I mean,
Well, I played for Larry Brown for 6 years, and my grandmother told me if you can't say anything good about someone, don't say anything at all. And so God, fellas, I'm going to have a meeting with God when I get accepted to the NBA Naismith Hall of Fame when they start talking about coaches. So my daughter tells me all the time, you got to be nice, but man. Unlike Jalen Rose, he would never say anything good about Larry Brown. So going back, if I recall, that team, it was young, lack of international experience, but they didn't have any leaders on that team,
Right?
And they lacked experience. And I know Larry Brown. Larry Brown will take the top 10 players of all time and played in the NBA, and he would screw it up. He would find a way to screw it up some kind of way. He would create dissension just by saying bad things about one person to the other person to the other person. That's just who he is. He's done it remarkably well as a coach. Great history. But I played for him for 6 years, and 6 of those years, 3 times I was, first team All Pro in the ABA. So that there entails with a problem. Here they have a young team, but they got players. This current team, they enjoy playing. And Mike, going back to your question, there had to be some changes back then in 1992. We no longer could compete with college players against international, with the Russians, with the Spain, and with all those other teams. China, remember China? We could not compete at all, and that's when they. Got the majority of the NBA players. I think they had 1 or 2, Christian Leitner, and maybe that was the only one. Yeah. And that was wrong because Shaq should have been on that team, if you recall. Clearly the best player, but the Christian Leitner. But they had 11 or 12 of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. I think probably all of them except for Leitner are in the Hall of Fame. So that was a great team. Coached by a great coach, Chuck Daly, who built everything on chemistry and playing unselfish basketball. They didn't have a hard time selling Michael Jordan to play there. Magic was just coming off of some of his health issues. Bird, you think about all those players they had. There was no way. I think their average wins was something like 25, 30 points.
Yeah.
So yes. So. You're never going to see college players coming in and playing in the Olympics again. We had to compete, and as well as I do, that sports define who the United States is. We want to be the best, and the same with track. You guys were talking about that a while ago. So I may be up there long in the tooth, but I still remember those great days, and I'm glad that we do have pro players today representing the United States in the international game and then also in the Olympics.
Let's talk about a guy you've known since he was a kid and one of the NBA's most prolific scorers, James Harden, who now wants to be traded. He says Daryl Morey is a liar, and he's not playing on that Philadelphia team when they come to camp this year. He does not want to be there.
Well, thank you for bringing that subject up. And I think recently, in the last couple of days, James Harden was fined $100,000, which is being contested by the NBA Players Association. We'll see what happens. But the rule is the rule. You can't request a trade publicly. But there's a history there. There's 9 years of history with James Harden and Daryl Morey. But James Harden, in my opinion, and I've known him since he was a kid, he's wrong in this instance. That's not how you go by requesting a trade. But I guess what his point was that Daryl Morey reneged on a promise to trade him after he opted in and signed his new contract at $35 million a year. I mean, you got 2 years left on the contract at $70 million. How much more do you want? Now let's go back to the history of James Harden. he requested a trade out of Houston to New Jersey. He goes to New Jersey, and things are not, with Kevin Durant hurt, and you have the issues with COVID and Kyrie Irving, and so he requested a trade to Philadelphia. He wasn't happy in New Jersey, so that's 3 teams, fellas, that he's got problems, and now
in 3 years.
And 3 years, and so he's clearly the second or third best player. But here's the problem: James Harden is not the James Harden 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, so they have a lot of chemistry problems, and so James Harden coming into Philly, coming into camp, he's gonna be a sore thumb. That's gonna be an odd situation because Philadelphia is not going to be able to get value for James Harden. The Clippers obviously didn't have enough assets to pull off a trade. So it's going to have to be 3 or 4 teams involved if James Harden. They're not going to trade him just to be trading him. I mean, go back to look at the young kid last year, the point guard. Can't think of his name right now. Was traded from Philly to New Jersey, and then he had all kind of problems. Ben Simmons, yeah. So it's not easy to trade players today to get value to value. I mean, you can't just trade a guy. You have to match. That trade has to value the whole amount. So Harden's making 35. They got to get value in return equal to that amount.
Unless you're the New Jersey owner where you say, okay, Kevin Durant, we'll send you to a good team, but Kyrie, there's no way you're going to the Lakers. I'm going to make sure of that. I'm going to send you to Dallas instead. So he made it personal instead of doing a shrewd business move, which, like you said, give you the best value back. He made it personal where he wasn't even worried about what he was getting back. He just wanted to make sure Kyrie didn't get what he wanted.
Yeah, well, Kyrie was very toxic. That was a very toxic. He made it a very toxic situation. And basically, they just wanted to unload him. If they didn't unload him, Michael, they would not have gotten good value back in return. And I think that's an up-and-coming team with the players they brought in, Miles Bridges and Johnson and some of the other players they had, and draft picks. So that was a toxic team with all 3 of those players, and you had to make a move. I mean, Kevin Durant's another player. He's never happy. It's like a little boll weevil, man. I'm from the country. Little boll weevil always looking for a home.
Well, and you know what though? What I was going to ask you about Morey, and also remember during the D'Antoni system is when Harden looked his best. Also, Steve Nash. So 2 MVPs for Nash and 1 for Harden under the D'Antoni system. So is it the system or is it the player? Does that system make those players look better than they really are?
A system is very important when you have everybody buying into that system and the chemistry. I mean, you look at the Denver Nuggets, recent world champion. They did not have the good chemistry a couple years ago. So what do? They go out and bring some wing players in, and Brown and the other guard from the Lakers, but then they bring in 2 veteran players. Yeah, they bring in 2 veteran players that they say you're not going to get a lot of time, but we want you to be excellent in the locker room. And Jordan and Jackson. And so those guys, they knew they wanted to play, but they were excellent. They kept everyone together. You go to Philly, you go to New Jersey, there's nothing but chaos there. You go to Phoenix, and it's a great team, but Chris Paul gets hurt. But then you have a coach who is down on Aiden, a great young player. I don't know everything, but that kid didn't play the best. He didn't have his best season under the coach. So it's all about chemistry, in my opinion. And right now, Philadelphia does not have the chemistry. Embiid's going to want out there he's going to want out after 1 year. I guarantee you.
Do you think Harden? Do you think they move him, Matt?
I do. I think what you do, Ricky, is that you wait until the trade deadline or close to the trade deadline, because you've got maybe 5 or 6 teams that says we got a shot to win it all, and they just need one piece to make it happen. I don't think you can get real value right now, but I think when you get midseason, when they've played 50, 55 games and the trade deadline, yeah, I think you make it happen. But going back to Philadelphia, I'm not a Daryl Morey guy. Right. I'm really not. He's had all those great teams in Houston. He tried it with Chris Paul. He tried it with all those guys, and it just didn't work. And he comes now to Philadelphia with a ready-made team to win everything. In my opinion, they could have gotten to the finals. They were clearly much better than Boston, but they just couldn't get over the hump since Milwaukee did not do well. So, but I'm not a Daryl Morey guy. I'm just not. He hasn't proven to me that he can really put a good team together and go to the finals.
So Mac, what if Harden says, "I'm gonna hold out. If you guys don't trade me, I'm gonna hold out." Then
hold out for what? Hold
out for not playing. Say, look, I'm not coming to camp. I told you guys I'm not gonna play as long as he's here, because that's the statement he made. So what if he says I'm not gonna come to camp? I won't play until you guys trade me. What happens in that case?
Mike, I'm not a betting guy.
Something's coming, Mike.
I am not a betting guy.
Okay.
But I'll bet every hair that you got on your head that he's not going. He's not. But you don't have it. I got to play with you, man.
You're not betting anything.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I can't go through this show without joking with you, man. But Mike, there's no way he's going to hold out. He has no value if he's holding out. He has no value. He's going to be fine. And it just doesn't work. Holding out is proven to teams that it just doesn't work. His best thing, now I understand he's in great shape. I have some friends that are close to his entourage, and he's really been working out. But James Harden lost his way many years ago. He just not passionate about the game the way he used to. Now, if he's in shape, then prove it on the court. Get one of the 2 top seeds and take your team. You got some good pieces there, but I doubt very seriously. I would bet anything that he would not hold out.
But when the teams lowball him, lowball Philly, then, because they say, we know you're going to get rid of him, so you got to get rid of him. So we're going to only offer you this much, because if, take it or leave it.
You got to offer value for value. You got to offer some good young players, draft picks, but you've got to put that package together where it equals a certain amount that he's making. James Harden has $70 million remaining on 2 years. He signed a 2-year extension, $35 million a year. He's not the James Harden of 3 years ago when he's 31 years old. He's going to be 34, I think, in a couple of days. So you're not going to – that's why the Lakers have not the Lakers, but the Clippers have backed off. They don't have enough – they don't have a package. And you got to get almost a superstar for another superstar, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, Mac, T. Morant, the father of John Morant, was speaking to a group of kids at a basketball camp. And he basically said, my son got in trouble for his decisions. He told the campers, make sure anytime y'all are anywhere, know the capabilities of everybody around you. My son didn't get in trouble for the people around him. He got in trouble for his decisions. So always be very mindful of the decisions y'all make, because it could pretty much take you over and can consume you and make you think who you are and who you're not.
Well, you guys, I have been on your show many times, and I have talked about John Morant, who I think is a great kid. And he was not like this his first year. And first of all, I don't know who allowed T. Morant to be at that camp to talking to kids, because he is certainly not a good example. He's not a good example at all. And so if for him to say that, he is the father of Jay Morant, and he goes to the game with his glasses on, half drunk himself. Not a good example. But if that's a good father, you tell your son, you cannot, as I tell players and all of young kids, everybody that you from the hood that you grow up with can't go with you, man. They can't go. You in the pros now. You've got to be an example and hang around the right people. You can't hang around. Now, if he's saying that his best friend that he grew up with, he's the one that had the video that exposed him twice. And yeah, John Moran has to make good decision, but you got to have somebody around you that's mature and say, look, we can't go to this club tonight, or we can't do this, and we can't get into arguments and get into fights. You got to have a good support system around you in the NBA. My 12 years and then 9 years coaching and scouting, over 30 years, close to 30 years in the NBA, ABA, I've seen a lot that's taken place with poor support system. And that's what happened to this kid. I wish the best for him. I mean, not many players can make up $45 million, which he lost last year in fines, lost another 20 million, 25 million because he didn't make the first, second, or third team all pro. And he's clearly one of the top 10 players in the league. So I don't buy the excuses from his father. His father has to be accountable to be an example for his son. Well,
who would be somebody to be the equivalent of a player like this, or players that get in trouble during your ABA days? A lot of people want to say Bad News Barnes, but who would be somebody you would say during your time frame you was like, look at this guy blowing his career over here?
Well, my great friend who I'm very close to today, ex-teammate, first pick in the ABA and NBA, he's Naismith Hall of Fame, is David Thompson. David Thompson was a quiet country kid, but once he got to the NBA, in college, I heard he was smoking marijuana. But once he started making that money, he started hanging with the wrong crowds, and obviously he got involved with drugs. And people don't know David only played 7, 8 years in the NBA and ABA, wherein he got into a fight at the New York club, and one of the bouncers pushed him down the stairs because David was flirting with one of the waitresses and pushed him down the stairs. He was with Seattle and never played again. Denver traded him to Seattle, knew that he had a problem, a drug problem. They followed him. We saw pictures of it, but they never did anything to give him any help. So David Thompson would be that type of paper. And you get player, and you guys know how great David Thompson was out of college.
Right.
Certainly his first 3 or 4 years, 2 years, David played 2 years in the ABA and then 5 years in the NBA, and so he would be that equivalent to that player.
Ricky, let me ask one more quick question.
Yeah.
So when you saw the Lakers winning time, the documentary, and I was flummoxed by the last episode because they were talking about Jim Jones, and Jim Jones is my hometown star. that was the big star out of Racine. So they talked about how he was going through that mess with Westhead, and then of course he talked about his triplets at the time, whom I actually met. I met his triplets, but they also talked about the David Thompson trade that Westhead messed up by saying that because Magic wants it to happen, I don't want it to happen. Do you remember that going on during your time?
I do. Yeah. I mean, everybody knew Carl Shearer, who was the general manager at the time, who was one of the 4 teams that merged. Carl had a lot to do with that. They knew David Thompson had a problem. The FBI was following David Thompson. So the league knew David Thompson had a problem. And we're talking about that winning time. If you go back and look at all the problems they had with James Worthy being booked in jail because he was with a prostitute. Magic.
They haven't gotten to that yet, though.
Yeah. Magic with his situation.
Yeah.
But what was the main problem there? They had an owner that was not a good example to the young players who walked around with 5 or 6 Playboy bunnies on his shoulders, So that was not a good situation. And being in Hollywood as well, then you had some other issues there. So great teams have great leaders from top to bottom, and of course Magic it caught up with Magic as well. So John Morant and I think what they've done. I'm talking about Memphis, the Memphis Grizzlies, by them bringing in Marcus Smart. I think that's going to really solidify and have really a solid locker room. He's a great leader with a respect, along with Jackson, JJ Jr., who's coming along. And they got rid of not Bain, but they got rid of the other kid, Dylan. I think that's a team that is going to be pretty good in the next couple of years, but it's going to take some time for Morant to come back. If he can stay healthy, and if he can really come back and be humble and grateful and appreciative that he's playing at the NBA level, I think it can be pretty good.
Hey guys, I got to get out of here. We have a major storm going on here in Detroit, but I do want to play this before we go.
And we had a storm last week,
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mac, this is from your basketball camp.
Thank you, Ricky.
Mac, you've done so much for so many kids over the years, and not only kids, your peers in the ABA. Talk to us a little bit about what we're watching.
Well, this is my 46th annual basketball. I'm teaching young kids how to come off a dribble. I mean, I can't get out and demonstrate anymore, but I'm showing some of the better players. This one kid, a left-handed kid, I just got him a scholarship to St. Anthony High School, and he was one of the best players in my camp last couple of years, just shot the ball. And I found out he was a homeless kid. He was the best player in middle school last year. I got him a $15,000 a year scholarship to St. Anthony private school. So I'm proud of that, And here's the little kids here. Our campus, we go for 5 hours from 10 to 3. We feed them. And, most of these kids come back, and
Nice shot.
Yeah, this is one of my karate experts to talk to the kids about bullying and talk to the young girls about if someone comes on you and what to do, scream and run. And so this is a world champion guy. And here's what I tell the kids. Here's a parent saying that her son, that's all he did was talk about Matt Calvin basketball camp. And he learned that getting an education and the value of respect to one another. And so, yeah, I got to ice down afterwards, after 3 days, because I'm on my feet for 6 hours. And so other than that, guys, it was a blessing. And then we have our sponsors from the Port of Long Beach. That was my daughter there. And here I'm telling the kids, get an education. So this is what we do, man. And like I said, this is 147 kids. We had 161 kids in April for our spring break camp. So
I like that AVA ball too, man.
Yeah. We I hope you guys can come down to Indianapolis in February, where the All-Star game is going to be. It's going to be themed. So I'm excited about that, and my book will come out during that time. So I'm just grateful, guys. I just turned 76, and so I feel like once I get this knee replacement done, I got another good 12, 15 years of coaching these kids.
Hey, our buddy, and speaking of that, let's give a shout out to our good friend Paul Big Mo McKeskey, who just got his knee replaced.
Yes.
And he's recuperating well, and he's very excited about being able to get around a little better. So
I hope that the knee replacement helped him jump a little bit, because he couldn't jump when he played. So.
It could be bionic. I got a quick follow up on that one. So the kid that got the scholarship to the school, $15,000, do they have dormitories? I know it's a high school, but is it that kind of
no, it's where Derek Martin, former NBA player and UCLA great, went. And I just saw the kid, and I liked him and saw him in April, and I thought it was his mother, and I asked him, where's he going to school? Guys, the kid's got straight A's, 4.0. And when the mother, he said, I'm his foster mother, and that I've had him since he was 2 years old. And I just went to work, called some friends at the school, got him a job, got him a scholarship, and man, this is one of my success stories, getting this kid.
That's awesome.
He's
awesome.
been, so we'll keep his name is well, I better not tell his name, so I don't think it's legally I can do that. But anyway, he's one of my great kids, and I'm happy. This is what we do. We have 15, 20 homeless kids in our camp, so I'm just trying to be a blessing, keeping the light going, fellas. And I'm grateful for you guys, man.
We are grateful for you, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hey, just like a good Kappa, man. I mean, hey,
Phi Nu Pi.
That's right. Hey, we're gonna get out of here for all these good Kappa men. Mike Roberson, the great legendary Matt Calvin. I'm Rick Hampton. See you next time. Peace, everybody.
You guys are the best. Thank you. You guys are the best, man. Take care. Bye-bye.